All right, and on this short episode here, the plan is to go through something that we've been delaying, both for a bit intentionally and then quite a while unintentionally. It's the Raven Guard Rites of War. We held off on this originally because one of the Rites of War relates to militia, soul auxilia, and units that just hadn't been released yet. They've now been out, and we were just doing a bunch of other stuff as well as just being busy and then just not recording quite as much as we used to, and took a while to get to this. As you'll notice, it's myself and Steve here. Dan is out tonight because his back is decided that it's going to try and tickle his nerves, so he's currently out of commission, and hopefully he both will have a speedy recovery, feeling better and able to move well again soon. Hopefully at least in time for this weekend, because there's a Halloween party. So I don't know, unless he wants to come as a guy on a stretcher. I guess that would be appropriate. But enough about his issues here. So we are going to be going through the Raven Guard Rites of War. Since it's been a while since we've done one of these, the way this normally goes, we're going to start with a brief overview of how essentially that particular legion, how they work. And then we're going to go into the Rites of War. Especially for this one, we'll be talking about, auxilia and militia as well with it when the right one comes up. And I believe Steve said that he would tell us all about who these Raven Guard guys are.
Absolutely. So, as you may recall from, far too close to a year ago at this point,
yes,
the Raven Guard are the 20th, sorry, not the 20th, the 19th Legion of Space Marines, created by the Emperor. Their thing is wearing beaky armor, being painted black with white details, and being sneaky. That means they are the sneaky beakies, and they look like ravens, and they guard the domains of the Emperor. Wow. So, their rules lean into that sneaky play style, with units that gain buffs to stealth and things that aren't particularly good at being sneaky instead just get aggressive. So to that end, all your units that are Raven Guard are assigned to either be a Talon, a Falcon, or a Hawk as their special rules package. So your Talons are going to be your infantry that aren't heavy, don't have jump packs, and aren't in Terminator armor. What they get is Shrouded 6-up against shooting attacks from more than 8 inches away. And you get Infiltrate. Those are both nice things to have. Basically means your tactical squads and your support squads, sniper squads, anything that's infantry, not a Terminator, not a jump pack. They get big deployment, which, deployment flexibility is a nice perk.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have the Falcons. This is for all your Raven Guard that are dreadnoughts. If you're infantry with bulky or heavy or anything like that, you are a Falcon. Instead of being sneaky and creeping up on people, you get to reroll failed to wound rolls of 1 on the turn you charge, even if it's disordered. Mm-hmm. This is nice for when you have those things that wound on 2s and your dice just really hate you. For example, Thunderhammers.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, the units that have this rule usually are given weapons that naturally re-roll failed wounds, like Lightning Claws or Raven's Talons. So basically a lot of things don't get any benefit from this rule.
No.
Chainsword squads. Assault Marines have chainswords. They have shred. They don't care about re-rolling once because they re-roll all of them. Just things like that. Bit of a rules oversight. And then finally we have the Hawks, which gives you Shrouded on all of your things that are cavalry, so that's your bikes and your lance feeders, or vehicles, or your flyers and fast. Your vehicles that are flyers or fast.
Yeah, it has to be a vehicle with an extra rule attached.
Yeah, not just your basic, Rhino. Unless you got a fast Rhino, which you don't have. So
no.
Yeah. Basically, it's going to be your saber tanks, your land speeders, and your bikes. And your planes.
Yep.
They're going to get Shrouded 6-up, which is really nice, but it's only on turns that you run or move flat out or move as a zooming flyer, which means you're giving up a lot of your offensive potential in order to get a 6-up Shroud save.
But
Yee.
it's a 5-up
That's
if
rough.
you already have a 6, but it can't get better. And I don't think they needed to restrict them that way.
Not at all.
Yeah.
They did not need restricted
Yeah, let
half
you
as
get to like a
much.
4-up, that's fine, because you're not shooting me.
Yep. And a 6-up comes up so rarely.
Mm,
Like I feel like a 6-up is like a cute little bonus. You don't really like build a strategy around it.
you can't.
So it's like having no trait at all. Honestly, at that point, like a 5-up, it's like okay, 1 in 3, you could kind of start mathing things out, kind of seeing the law of averages take place. A 1 in 6, you're not going to see law of averages come into effect nearly as much.
I played orcs. I rolled plenty of t-shirt saves. It only feels good when you're having to roll 20 dice.
Yup,
Then if you get the 5 6s because you're rolling, say, over average, you feel good. If you're rolling a die to save your vehicle and you don't roll a 6, it don't matter.
exactly. That's the thing too. You don't roll enough dice for vehicles for the law of averages to really come into play.
No, it doesn't come into play at all. You might feel great because you rolled that 6 against the melta or the multi-melta or whatever it may be, but most of the time you're not, and you're just going to take that shot and just get wrecked.
Yep. Also note, most of the Legion gets nothing for close combat,
No.
except for the guys that are, the jump packs and Terminators that might already re-roll the wound rolls. So you want to stand back about 8 inches or more away and shoot, shoot, shoot.
Yeah.
That's the Legion trait. The advanced reaction, they get a Shroud save. They get to make a move equal to their highest modified initiative. So, they duck, dive, dodge, weave, and get out of the way of shots.
Yep.
Very nice. That's probably one of the stronger parts of being a Raven Guard.
Absolutely.
For their Warlord traits, nothing. I don't think any of their stuff was too crazy.
Yeah,
They
nothing
get
that's going
bonuses
to
and
play
challenge.
too nutty
They
into
get
what we're going
bonuses
to
and
talk about.
challenges with one. None of it really fundamentally alters list construction.
No, nothing that's going to matter for the Rites of War, which we're going to get into.
Yeah.
And we'll get into. Do you care which one that you take as the main?
I am good with either.
All right. Well, since you just did the last part, maybe I'll do Decapitation Strike first, and then when we get to Liberation, once we kind of go through it, it'll be a back and forth to discuss all the other, 30 units they could take if they want.
Sounds great to me.
Yep. All right. So they have 2 Rites of War for these guys. We'll start with the first one: is Decapitation Strike. It is now. It might have been a bit since we've done this, just so people know. We go through the limitations first because we don't want to get excited about something that you can do and then find out that you're not allowed to do it. So we are going to start there. So for limitations, if you're using this Rite of War, you only get a single heavy support choice, which, when you think of Raven Guard, that's probably very fitting to the way you would think of their Legion, at least in 40k. In 30k, I know sometimes these factions brought a lot more things than you would necessarily think they would. But, okay, you don't get a lot of heavies. That makes sense. You should be a fast-moving kind of force. And you can't take fortifications. That's fine. That's very common. Who wants a fortification anyway? They're terrible. The effects, so what you get if you do this. All models that are Raven Guard, special rule and detachment, using this Rite of War, gain preferred enemy of independent characters. As it says, decapitation. Your goal is to cut off the head of the Hydra, so to speak. All models in any unit from this detachment using this Rite of War assigned to a deep strike assault or flanking assault. So if you're coming in the board in one of those special ways, you get a 5-up shroud on the game turn that you deploy onto the battlefield.
E.
Do you not like that? It sounds like you don't like that.
It's a rules nightmare.
Ooh, how so?
Game turns.
Mm-hmm.
If you're second in the turn order, it only applies on the player turn you arrive.
Yes.
If you're first in the turn order, it's your turn and then your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
Unless I missed something in the way Horus Heresy defines a game turn, that's my understanding of a game turn.
That is my understanding of the way it's always been in any GW game, whether they call them game turns or if you go to like Sigmar, we call it battle rounds or whatever. But when you call it that, your first round is the game turn 1, and then each player has their particular go. So yeah, that's my understanding of it as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that and make sure we're not wrong.
Yeah, I
But
want to be wrong
let's
about
operate
it.
under the assumption that this is a rules sad face. Continue.
Yeah, yeah. I'll go to the last point while you look at that. Um, if the mission is using victory points, which again we've taught how you really should be using victory points of some sort of way or another, an army that includes a detachment with this rite of war gets 2 extra victory points for Slay the Warlord. Often Slay the Warlord is worth 1 point. Now their Slay the Warlord's going to be worth 3. You are better at taking down, since you have preferred enemy independent characters, and you're at least survivable to an extent. Your survivability at least is helped in general with that shrouded because you're at least getting it in the turn when you drop in. And that's good in terms of intercepting you and all. But Steve's going to check on the other bit to be sure. Overall, when I think about the faction, I think this fits very well, or the Legion, I should say. I think it fits really what they want to do. I think it gives them a very cool fluff purposes. I think the gains are not very big in general. Preferred enemy is nice, and it's going to help with that warlord. And let's face it, some of these missions tend to be somewhat low scoring. The Chthonian missions, I have to play more of just to get a feel for where their scoring levels are. But a lot of the other missions tended to be pretty low scoring. So +2 victory points for me able to take out a warlord can actually be absolutely a game changer. But getting preferred enemy versus independent characters, you might only see one of them. It may not do that much for you if they're taking a lot of characters, if they have some of these rights where they take a good amount, or if they have independent characters in other slots than just HQ. Now you're getting some real benefits. But otherwise, I don't know if you're getting quite as much. Were you able to check about game turn?
So I found the part where they define game turn, and
Okay.
I don't like the way they phrase this because it leaves it kind of
Okay.
open.
What do they say?
So what they say in this section is that in a complete game turn, each player gets a player turn divided into the blah 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 phases. One game turn therefore comprises 2 player turns, one for each player, during which they become the active player. Whenever rule refers to a turn, it means a player turn, unless it specifically says game turn. But then in the turn summary, it says once a turn is fully resolved, the player switch roles, active becomes reactive, vice versa. We get a new player turn. This cycle continues until the game ends, whether due to reaching a set limit of game turns.
There you go. So
And that
they don't use the
implies
word
that-
rounds in this game.
Yep.
They technically use game turns. So when they say both players, they mean game turn 1. There's no such thing as round 1. It's not a distinction of ideas here. So yeah,
That's
it's the feels
I
bad
hate
for 'em.
that. I hate that.
Yeah. Do one of two things. You either do the the rip the band-aid off not fun choice of saying during the turn, but just say turn, which would mean player turn, that they come in. Okay, I would like it for longer, but so be it. But now it actually means my rule
Or
is
say,
better if I get to go first.
Yeah, or just or phrase it as until the start of their next of the active player's next turn.
Yeah, until the start of
gain
your
the
next turn.
benefits of blah blah blah. Yep.
Yeah, they could say that. Whichever option they want, if they only want it for that immediate moment, or if they want it until I go again, but say that. The way they've said it, yeah, it really does mean if you're doing this, you want to be going first, either by rolling or seizing or in some way. You want to go first because otherwise you are losing out a lot. The turn you come down, I know at least in our sort of meta where we play, there's quite a few people take augury scanners, so intercept is a pretty big thing. I've had 400-point forces drop in, try to pin a bunch of stuff, and the augury scanners they're gone from the board by the time they drop in. Having a shroud would have saved units. So if you play in a spot where there's a lot of augury, that is really big and important. But having it when you're shooting at me in the following player turn, when it's your turn to go, would make me feel like I have a good bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't love this one. It doesn't restrict you more than the heavy support because I don't care about fortifications. If you run a lot of fortifications, put it in the comments because I want to see someone actually tell me why they don't think they're garbage. If you weren't taking a lot of heavy, cool, go for this. There's literally zero downside if you weren't taking heavies. If you
And
are taking
heavies
heavies,
squatching up as well. Like
Yes.
you get 3 Leviathans or 2 Daredeos or 2 Scorpii in one slot. So like your one heavy slot could still do a lot of lift.
Yeah. If you were the type who are playing like, oh, it's Raven Guard, I want a fast and mobile force. I'll take maybe a Leviathan because they're cool and I like it. But if you weren't running a lot of heavies, I would just base run this. Unless there was, one of the base core rulebook ones that I'm really trying to fit, but they can be weirdly restrictive as well. If you want to be like, I'm pure Raven Guard, yeah, take this if you're not taking more heavies. But if you're taking the heavies, I would never trade this off for heavies. So,
And not if you were like planning on running them to begin with. The preferred enemy is a nice perk because as long as the one character's in the unit, the whole unit counts for it, which helps.
Oh,
It definitely
absolutely.
helps. Rerolling ones on hits and wounds, yeah, rerolls are great. Everyone loves a good reroll.
It handles
So basically,
part of your, what was it, Hawks? No, Falcons, because it was the football team. Covers
it
up part of that.
replaces the Falcons rule with something better,
Yes.
effectively.
Oh,
And
absolutely
it makes your
does.
Talons into better Falcons. Oh, Falcons is so bad.
It is. Yeah, the preferred enemy
But
perk is
yeah.
great. It's just you got to hope they have independent characters. But that's why it would be nicer if you could get the extra shrouded.
I'll be honest, I think one unit you want for this. Oh wait, nope, that doesn't work. I was gonna say a nice beefy Terminator squad with Thunderhammers that I've remembered. Oh wait, Terminators don't natively deep strike in this
No.
game.
Nope, they don't, and you really in this you don't have a way
And
to do that.
a Warmonger does not deep strike assault. So you can
No.
use a Warmonger to get the 5-up cover, 5 shroud save. Oh dear.
Yeah.
So your jump packs. You take a beefy jump pack squad, and 1 in 5 guys gets a power weapon or charmable.
Yeah, it's
Verdict, Thousand Suns do better.
they definitely do. I mean, yeah, because even your special units, they really don't have much in terms of special units either. So you're looking at Dark Fury Squad, which is nice. Don't get me wrong. That's a very good and useful for them to have. But
They're a great unit.
yes, they are really good. But you definitely want more than just them to benefit from this.
Yup.
All right.
But
So,
it does what it says on the tin. It picks that one thing your enemy has and it decapitates it.
yeah,
Simple as.
and victory points are always good. That's how you're going to win. And that extra 2 swing could do it without you losing anything, or not losing much at least.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Absolutely.
Why don't we get into Liberation Force, because that one's probably going to take a bit to talk about because we'll have some other units to talk about.
Absolutely. All right. So this right award, Liberation Force. This is where the humans and the Astartes come together. They get in a circle, they sing, they hold hands. It's a beautiful sight. And then they go kill heretics together. So, limitations. A detachment with Rise of War may not include any models to be slow, heavy, artillery, bombard, or automated artillery subtypes. Note that's this detachment.
Yeah.
The detachment using the Rite of War. So any allied attachments you have are not restricted in such a way.
No, they're not.
You must be a loyalist. That's fair. You don't really liberate for Horus unless you're
liberating from the Emperor.
We're forced to assume that the Emperor's the good guy, unfortunately. Although there's definitely a case to be made that he's not. Then we have the Rite of War may only be selected for primary detachment. That's going to make a lot more sense when we get to the last bullet point here. Your primary detachment uses Rite of War must include an allied detachment that is selected from the Solar Auxilia or Imperialis Militia Army lists. That includes at least 4 units, which is going to be your compulsory HQ, compulsory troop, and then
2 whatever you like at least.
2 of anything. You get 1 of each slot and 2 more troop slots to play with. So you got room. In those troop slots, you can take up to 3 units in each slot as well. So you could get a lot of bodies on the table. And some of those combinations are pretty spicy.
Yeah. Once we go through the effects, we'll talk about what sorts of things we would like to add into this army here.
Yup. So for the effects, once per battle, as start of any game turn, the controlling player may choose to have all models with the Raven Guard special rule in an attachment using this Rite of War to gain the Stubborn special rule for that game turn. Stubborn is good. Stubborn protects against almost all leadership modifiers and a lot of things that make pinning more brutal on you, except for telepathy. Telepathy is just good.
Yeah,
But stubborn is a good rule, so we like stubborn. All right, it's only for a turn, but it's gonna be the turn that matters. Then we have all models that has attachment as part of this thing. Blah blah blah. They gain the stubborn, so all your little mortal auxiliaries are gaining stubborn, and that is a nice perk because their base leadership is awful.
Yes.
And any penalties you take to it, you're going to feel. So that's a fantastic addition. I like it. And finally, all models composed entirely of Raven Guard gain hatred everything, while one model from that unit is within 6 inches of any model from an allied detachment in the same army. Oh yeah, hatred.
Hatred's really strong.
Hatred definitely has its shining moments.
Yeah, I've faced Myrmidons who hate everything. Like it really ups the curve that you have in general.
Yeah. So for those at home who do not remember what hatred does, because it wasn't used much last edition, and only some units have it now. I'm definitely not stalling for time by filling with random words and statements on.
I don't blame you. I find now I play so many different games, I have to look up special rules again just to make sure I have the exact wording correct.
Different games, different editions. Oh my god, too many games. All right, so
go ahead.
Hatred. You get to re-roll all failed hit rolls in the first round of each close combat.
Which
it only applies if you start the phase not locked in combat and then end up locked in combat whether you charge or get charged.
Yeah. What's so big about that is, like you said, there's not tons of reroll hits in the game in general, and this army doesn't really have a lot of that. They have a lot of reroll some or all of wounds, because you're talking about Raven's Claws and you know, Mordetha with their claws, or chain swords, and all these sorts of things. Shred, whatever rules you may have. But getting to reroll the hits, and then you have the way to reroll your wounds, means that your consistency is going up huge.
Yep.
And like I said, yeah, stubborn for some, because we're looking at some, when you take a look at militia, you're looking at units that if they fail, they're just gone in combat. So stubborn, now them sticking around or potentially sticking around is super important.
Absolutely.
All right.
So that limitation with the slow, heavy artillery and bombard and the primary detachment, I'll just cover a couple of the common units that you're going to be missing out.
Yeah.
Cataphracting Terminators are heavy. You're losing them. Breacher squads are heavy. You're going to lose them. Heavy support squads are heavy in this edition by default, so you're going to lose out on them. I'm checking if destroyers are heavy or not, because I have a sneaking suspicion they are.
That one I don't know. The other rules are much more selected of what you have. Bombard doesn't come up much. We know the units that have those sorts of things, or automated artillery. Okay, you can't take essentially some of the legacy things, tarantula turrets and that kind of stuff.
Okay, they are not heavy. The what's it called? Squads, destroyers. So you could take destroyers still. So that's something you put in a drill, because you know I love my drills.
Oh yeah.
Trying to think, like, durable enough units with special delivery systems available to them. No Leviathan Dreadnoughts and no Box Dreads, because those are both heavy.
Yeah, the big one
is one of the land speeders heavy?
Not that I'm aware of.
Javelins are heavy.
Javelins are okay.
Javelins are heavy, so no javelins.
Yeah. So the big thing there is the heavy from the core book. So if you're looking at the main line, if we want to think about it that way, heavy is the one that you're really being affected by. If you're looking at legacy style units, then you'll start getting some of these other ones. So you are restricted a bit, but you do get to make up for it to some extent because you can now take those type of units out of your auxiliary, your allied detachment of auxiliary or militia. So which one do I want to pull up first?
How do you want to build this?
Yeah, so if we're looking at, say, Solar Auxilia, let's talk about them first. Because theirs a little bit shorter. If you're looking at this, since we know we have to take an HQ, let's talk about maybe HQ that we might like related to this.
It's a force commander.
Yep.
But not a force commander. I guess it is a force commander, technically. You're probably taking the basic generic HQ guy.
Oh, mine though?
And...
yeah, wait. I might open the wrong oh, that's their legacies. They listed their thing separately, didn't they? For Solar Aux. Did they do
Solar Aux is in the Loyalist book. Not Loyalist, the same book with the Custodies.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah, that because what I pulled up was just the Legacies one, because if it's a GW proper book, I can't display GW proper books. All right, took a brief pause there because I wanted to pull up the book. Like I said, unfortunately, I can't display it because GW, I've reached out to them, but they've never told us it's okay, and I don't want to run afoul of them while I'm still waiting for them to say anything good to us. So we're taking a look at the Solar Auxilia part first. And we said for that, one, we were just reviewed for Cohort Doctrines. Cohort Doctrines tell you if you're allowed to be an allied detachment or not. And the main ones we were looking at don't restrict you for being an allied detachment. So if you want to discuss because you're the ones who actually found them.
Yep. All right. So what I would say is it's such a great default to work off of. It's hard to want to do anything else. The Solar Pattern Cohort. It's good. You get Velataris' troops. Everyone could buy a little bumblebee to fly around the battlefield in. But more importantly, you get Velataris' troops. So I love Velataris. They're the guys that can have the rotor guns on one in, their special section. They have Volkites or Storm Axes in like the basic unit, and then your Tercio command unit can have power, like normal power weapons, which means you give them power lances, which are obviously, an all right, but not that great way to go for the points. But it's fun, so you do it anyway. As a Rhine-Drift doing a cohort special rule, you're going to need their force commander guy and not the command squad as the single HQ choice. Do the command squads have a role in here? I think they do, only because you kind of get a trait in the form of stubborn from the Rite of War.
Yeah.
But if you get stubborn and something, that's even better. Yeah.
The other useful feature of that in some ways is that for your main guys, your Raven Guard, they get bonuses. They get the hatred when they're near other units, essentially from, say, in this case, the Solar Auxilia. So if you're taking the squad, you now have more guys. Maybe they're up more in the front. Now you have the squad for your units to be around as well.
Exactly. Another reason I love the Velataris as a way to do this, put them in planes, because guess what? Planes are relatively safe. They are a model from that army. They're mobile, so you just kind of flip-flop them across the battlefield. I think the Solar Power Core is a really, really strong way to do this.
Yeah.
Another really strong way to do this is just have units that refuse to break. If you do a Reborn cohort, and you load up on your Voxcasters, you could have an army with very high leadership, stubborn, just refusing to budge. You're getting +1 leadership in everything.
Yeah.
Tie something down in combat forever. have the Raven Guard follow in and mop up whatever's tied up.
Yeah.
Just some great 1-2 combos out there you could do if you use your mortal allies as that kind of initial cushion.
Yeah. If you're taking these guys, if you're missing some of those heavier style units or anything like that, you obviously have, your Chernite Ogrins. So now if you want something, not that they have heavy, but they're a heavy unit. So you have some of that if you want to take a heavy hitter. Just scrolling through, checking their other things, if there's anything else that stands out. I mean, obviously, if you're not taking related to the Velataris, then you're just taking
Mortars.
normal infantry. Yeah, mortars. You weren't allowed to take that kind of stuff otherwise.
You
And
could take your rapier batteries, which is take them here because they're cheaper anyway.
Yep. What else do they have? Their strike squads. I don't think you need that. You probably have that sort of thing. Some decent flyer types, which we remember talked about. That wasn't bad overall. Lehman Russes, again, if you want some other heavy options, now you can actually take some different types of tanks. And we did like some of the options of Russes. Not all of them were quite as good. Again, because we're a little bit down on, say, Demolishers and things like that. But some of them, or Battle Cannons, weren't really necessarily all they're cracked up to be. But we did like some of those options as well.
Yeah, Vanquishers were really good from what I remember.
Vanquishers are very good. That's the one that you take. It's the Vanquisher. You have to take at least one Battle Cannon one, though, because that's, like, I think, the base one. But, yeah, you're taking the rest as, like, Vanquishers.
Yeah, that's your squadron leader type dude.
Yeah. I mean, they have, from the Legacies, you have your Siege tanks if you want that. It's another Demolisher, but Demolishers, it's as long as you're picking the right target, a Demolisher can be very good. You're just having to pick the correct targets. But
I'll put it this way. If you're fighting a lot of Mechanica and they like Phalanx,
oh yeah,
the Demolishers make sense. Or like Custodes and you roll a lot of 6s on your wound rolls because you're just like that.
Yeah.
With Brutal 3, though, even then you could kind of force them to fail 2 up eventually.
Yeah.
But just weight of dice. So Custodes and Mechanica, basically, if you're fighting the I'm bulkier than you end of the swing, then it's playable.
Yeah.
If you're fighting against hordes, again, it's playable because it's a small blast now.
But you know what? Small blasts, if they're either not pushing themselves out appropriately or anything like that, you go into the right units, you're still going to tag a couple things. Again, not amazing. I think you have some other good options. The Tank Hunter Squadrons, the Destroyer Tank Hunters, I think are nice because they have the Proteus.
Destroyers are better. Yeah.
Yeah. A 2-shot, strength 9 AP1, twin-linked shot. Yeah, gets hot, but that's fine. That one does you quite a bit of good. That one's out of the Legacies. Earthshakers, I remember we liked to ascend the Minotaur batteries. The problem was just the cost of the Minotaur. If you're now looking at Militia, then I think you start looking at those options because you get it for cheaper. Not too sold on the Macarius. I mean, you could always go, not quite that, but I think getting the Velataris, then grabbing up something out of the heavy, and maybe something else elite because you're swapping your Velataris. Most likely, if you're taking that particular cohort, you're swapping your Velataris into your troop. So you take a good amount of bodies, you got something nice and heavy, add some good support for that.
Fluff-wise, the penal one could be a decent setup, but your fluff-wise is a good match. Gameplay-wise, you're not losing anything for it, except Velataris' troops. But yeah, I think Solar Pattern, if you're going for pure, what makes sense when I'm designing an army, Solar Pattern is what makes sense, especially because the Velataris become troops.
Yeah. Well, for the penal, you're talking about militia, aren't you?
No, penal cohorts are a Solar Aux
pattern.
Yep.
What's the name of it? I'm looking through. I'm not seeing it.
Is it not
Reborn
just called
armor. Oh yeah, there it is. Yep,
penal?
yeah,
Yep.
penal pattern. Cohorts. Yeah, sorry, missed it.
Yeah, there are things like 1 in 10 could take a very lightweight special weapon.
Yeah, and
Makes
they
sense
get like
for
a feel no pain
shotguns and
6
stuff.
up.
Yeah. I guess if you took like dudes with shotguns, you could use them to debuff things and the Raven Guard charge into them. But I don't rate concussive, and I'm not even sure their shotguns have concussive.
Yeah, I'd have to check to be sure. I'm not. Probably doesn't.
Uh, don't quote me on that. I feel like they probably don't, just because that would be. I don't rate concussive
I agree.
because it doesn't trigger. See, if concussive and blind triggered the way that pinning triggered, where it's each time you're hit from a unit with that rule, you took the test. I would love those rules,
Yes.
but they don't. Um, Shotguns are concussive.
Okay.
That's good.
All right, they do get that.
Assault 2 concussive. So, I mean, some shotgun squads and Solar Rocks could be cool.
The Penal Legion one, I would see that if your goal was to essentially, I'm going to flood parts of this board, and the reason I will get my charges I want is because you're either going to have to go through my guys, or I'm just going to charge these random guys into you. They're stubborn. They're going to be harder to shift, and then I get whatever, special assault squads style or style squads you want into them. Honestly, to me, that's part of the reason why you do this. But if you really want to guarantee your charges, that's probably when you look at militia, to a certain extent, because you're trading bodies and some firepower for more of your own units. But when we talk about militia, so militia, luckily theirs is purely legacy, so theirs I can display quite easily.
Huzzah!
Yeah. The one very nice part is the fact that you get stubborn, because that's a base thing that you had when you're in the ally, that they're just stubborn. That really helps, because remember, in a lot of militia things, if you lose combat, you're just removed. You're not getting to run away, anything like that. If you're already running, you're removed. There's a lot of the ways in which you are just removed from the game. I have it displayed up here in case people don't remember. If you're falling back and you're successfully charged, you're just removed. No leadership. You don't get anything special. If you're in combat and someone else charges you, you make a morale test. If it's failed, they fall back, can be swept, all that stuff. So there's a lot of ways for them to go away. Being stubborn is going to help. So what do you take if you're taking these guys?
Oh man, there's so many ways to take it. So,
Yeah.
with your HQ, you're doing the Force Commander, so you could unlock, all those fun little options.
Yeah.
With the Master of Worlds, because I don't think a Discipline Master cadre will make enough of a difference.
Nope.
And
No,
also
you
a
want
Rogue
Master of Worlds.
Psyker that's traitor locked will work too well in a loyalist locked army. So we got a Master of Worlds. Oh, there's so many options.
And being an ally doesn't matter for this, right? No, they just have to be militia. Okay.
Yep.
There's a lot of options, but let's face it, you're taking militia because you want Muster of Worlds.
Yep. And you want cheap bodies.
Yes. Which, that's what they do. The other nice part is some of their tanks, since they are third line, the glances become pens and all of that, but they are a good bit cheaper. So if you want some back range fire support, and in reality, if you're playing it right, and your Raven Guard are rushing up the board, and you have all these other bodies hanging out, they're probably not as concerned about your vehicles because they don't have the time to be concerned about it. So it might help them in terms of survivability. Where normally in militia, if you just have a lot of bodies, my heavier things are going to be shooting at, say, your tanks because they have no other choice. Here, I have some guys rushing to my face that I'm actually worried about. So, yeah. What else?
Oh, yeah, that's trader only. Yeah, the trader only things are also locked out, which is something
can't do those.
to note. So no debased rabble for just all in close combat assault, sadly. I mean, you could build towards close combat with feral warriors, for example.
Oh, absolutely, you could. I mean, I'm thinking either a normal infantry squad that's a nice line choice. I mean, the levy you could go with, but then it's not line. I'm thinking that this is my way to get cheap scoring in the army. I have nice cheap scoring. They can go sit on the objectives. They're a 20-man unit. They're a little bit harder to shift because there's just a good amount of bodies. And again, I have all of my Raven Guard in your face. Are you really going to be shooting the militia hanging out in the back? Or are you going to be shooting that squad that's right in front of you? You know, I got to, the strike squads and
Exactly.
all this stuff in front of you.
Let the Marines do the heroics.
Yep.
Okay, this is where you're going to get a lot of your heavier stuff in as well. Like, again, these guys have access to some heavier kit, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, you have fire
Uh,
support squads if you want to take
they got,
support in there to get some individual style heavy weapons, some
hmm
platforms essentially.
Sentinel squadrons. You have the big guns, the ones
Yes.
that the new Cadian ones. That last cannon was a pretty good setup, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And there's like a kaleidoscope mortar or something like that. Calliope.
Yep. You have elites. You have a field gun in there. The cargo eight. I love the fact they got the cargo eight. You definitely don't need cavalry because you already have the speed. I wouldn't worry about any of that.
True,
Beastmasters.
true.
I wouldn't bother looking at any of that. It's funny, but don't do it. Sentinels aren't bad. Sentinels not a bad choice. I like it overall. Especially because you're limited in sort of the walker type things that you can take anyway, because you can't take those heavy ones. So you can't take Leviathans or Box Knots.
Yep, just contemptors, I think.
Yeah, just, as far as I know, yeah, it'd just be Contemptors.
You can take a Baneblade because you're not blocked out from Lords of War.
No, and their Baneblade is, in a good price point, because I remember we did like that Baneblade quite a bit because it is a little bit
Yep.
cheaper. And the problem with the Baneblade wasn't that it was bad; it was just very, very expensive. Getting it any bit cheaper is nice.
And being super heavy helps offset the fact that it's third line.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, okay, you got a penetrating hit. I don't care unless you roll a 7 and make an explode result. So that's cool.
Yeah, I like in their heavy support. I like say either the Lehman Russes because they're a little bit cheaper. I do like or the or ordnance batteries aren't bad because again the Earthshaker we liked. The problem was the Earthshaker on like a 285 point thing was ridiculous. This is an Earthshaker on a 75 point piece. So now I actually really like those things.
Hmm.
Or like you said, take
The
the Baneblade
Gorgon.
at 400 points. That's like half the
Yeah.
price of the normal Baneblade.
Yeah,
And
which is insane.
yeah,
The Gorgon's just a solid pick, I think, because transport capacity 40. First of all, it's a big model with armor 15 front, 14 side. So you could push that thing up the table, use that to give you a nice big bubble of, hey, it's, I think it's the size of Baneblade footprint wise.
yes, it
So
is. It is huge.
Baneblade, yeah. So with a 6-inch bubble around it of hatred.
Yep.
So have your Raven Guard escort that up the table. Like there's a lot you could do with
And
this list.
and if you're willing to kind of so if you think of say your 6x4 board long ways and you have it angled off to the side and rather than going straight up the board if you're going off towards an angle then you could actually hide quite a few units behind it or get them almost entirely out of line of sight. So for your little bit more squishy squads if you don't want to have them start off the board and say jump down or anything like that, you can have them start behind this, they're not seen, and then jump out across the top.
Also true, hide a 10-man assault squad behind it just for that counter assault if you want to get close. Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. Or on the turns, like I said, its side is 14. So if I need to protect some other vehicles or something else I have, I'll protect with a side of 14, part of my front being the 15 that you might see, as opposed to all my other vehicles sitting at maybe 12s or 13s, depending on what it is. So, with a lot of hull points, with 8 hull points. So, yeah, I either like these guys to stay nice and cheap, take some super cheap infantry, take, like I said, maybe an ordnance battery because they're pretty cheap. Add that in. Or you take these guys as your ally that you're going to put a decent amount of points into because you're taking a 250 point Gorgon or a 400 point Bane Blade. And then the rest of the things. Remember, you have that 4 units minimum. So you do have to take a couple other things. But these guys get away cheap. If you want that Bane Blade, you can get the rest of the other 3 units for like a bit over 100 points. Like you can get away for almost nothing. So,
Yep.
Do you like one over?
Go
ahead, I'm sorry.
Levy squads do not support this edition. So
No,
that's
they're
what,
not.
80 points on levies and HQ and Gorgon.
Yes. Yeah, you can
Wow.
get by it. What's the main HQ's cost? I don't remember. I'm scrolling up to them now.
The main HQ is like 100 points.
Okay,
But
yeah.
like you could get away with a 20-point Discipline Master if all you want is a Gorgon to just take up space.
Yeah, if that's your goal, add 100 points to the cost of whatever you really want, and that's the overall cost. But even then, yeah, the Force Commander at 100, a couple of Levy squads with some of those musters on them. You'll get work out of those guys, absolutely. Do you prefer Militia or Solar Aux as the support?
Ooh.
I gotta ask the tough
I think
ones.
it comes down to your player mentality, right?
Okay.
I think I've mentioned this before with like the NPC war game, right? Where you play the faction where you're setting up models for your opponent to knock down. And with Militia, you're setting up a lot of models that your opponent will be knocking down.
Oh, yeah.
But it's to allow your Space Marines to go and do cool Space Marine things. TM. I mean, I think I shared that same sentiment, though, for the Solar Auxilia. So it really depends on whether or not you want to bother touching dice to roll saves.
That's not a bad way to put it.
Like that, at least the Solar Aux have a 4-up save.
Yeah, I see Solar Aux to me is if you want additional, good features, like good aspects to add in. The Militia to me just seems more fun because you get a little bit more variability with what you do, but also there you're really looking for the single toy. I'm taking Militia because I want this individual unit, and then I'm going to slap some other guys in because I have to take 4 things. Where Solar Aux, I'm feeling that I'm actually using them as sort of a way to build the start of an actual Solar Aux army. Like, if I wanted to play Solar Aux and I have some Space Marines, I'm going to call those Raven Guard, and now I can kind of play them together as a build-up. You're kind of not... I don't think you're doing half-hearted a start into Militia using any of this. You're doing it because you want one cool thing that you have, and then you're going to take the bodies to be able to fill out to take the cool thing.
I mean, you could also just take a whole lot of 40-point squads.
You can.
Spread them across the table. I think you could take 9 of them because you get 3 troops in a allied slot, right? So you take 9 of these Levy squads, just put them across the table. Like, all right, I'm just going to run up the board with a bunch of lunatics, have some Raven Guard run up the board with them, and they're just going to hit something, and they'll have hatred because, the little guy's walking up the field next to them. And that's a good way to do it, too. And Militia do it best because they do it cheapest.
Yeah. Yeah, if you just want pure bodies, pure numbers, go Militia, they're cheaper. If you want your individual things to do more for you, probably Solar Aux. If you want the one cool choice, Militia again.
And not to mention, you could do Solar Aux for the allied detachment.
Yes.
And then take the Bane Blade.
Yes. Yes, you can do
from
that.
Militia.
Yes, you are allowed to do that.
But also note, the Bane Blade will not count for your Hatred aura because it's not part of an allied detachment. It's part of a Lords of War detachment.
Yes.
So just be careful about that little detail.
Yeah.
The Gorgon, though, is heavy.
Yeah, with some of the guns, it might be up a little bit further. So it's important to keep that in mind.
The Gorgon's a heavy slot, though, so you could absolutely get your buffs off of that.
Yes.
But yeah, that's Raven Guard at long last.
Yeah,
wow.
we took a while to do it.
Demons came out before Raven Guard.
Yes, they did.
That's wild.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure we got to it, and then just recording wise, we've just had too many things going on. We're like, oh, we should do a normal episode. Oh, it took too long. We can't get to Raven Guard. But with Dan not being able to make it tonight, we figured this is what we would do. This is at least this I'll put out in the podcatchers as well. I know some of the other ones I have in the past, but I want to put something out, and I have some other things I'm going to be working on as well. So, all right, that gives us at least something for this week. Like I said, hopefully this week you'll see a few other things. You'll probably see some stuff for me, and then next week, well, hopefully Dan's legs are working again, so we'll be back to a more normal recording schedule, and we can get back to official episode 101, where now I'm not sure exactly what we're going to cover, but we'll work on some improvements. Improvements being things like making sure dishes aren't being done in the background around me and things like that. But that's all on me, so we'll make sure that gets changed. All right, well, that's enough about Raven Guard for now then. So,
one question.
Oh, go ahead.
Now that we finished Raven Guard, does that mean Heresy is dead?
As far as I know, it already was. That's at least what I was informed. No.
True.
So there's still plenty more. So one thing down in comments. One, if you don't subscribe, please do subscribe. The last time I checked, is about 1/3 of the people who listen to us are subscribed. So if you're doing it, it just really helps us out. The other thing, write down the other things of Heresy that you want to hear about. Things that I would like to do. I want to do, obviously we can do some more general type discussions and things like that, but even things about, we haven't done it yet, like turn zero for Heresy. What does it start with? More general sort of list building, how to think about different things. So I think there's still plenty of stuff, but it might not be this pure review style. And I've enjoyed the pure review style, but it might go to a little bit more open. And when we do Heresy things, we might be able to do some more of what you would call like a classic style episode, where we also talk about what we've been doing and playing and, discuss that and then get into a topic rather than the topic being the whole thing, because it's a 3-hour, slugfest to get through. So there'll still be plenty of Heresy. We'll be talking about some other stuff as well, but there'll still be plenty of Heresy because there's still tons of things to do and say and all of that related to it. So, all right. Well, having said that then, on behalf of everyone here at the show, have a good hobby and some great gaming.